Hello. How
Hello,
are you?
Roger. How are you?
Good,
Thanks for
thank you.
taking the time. Roger, you've been playing as a professional for more than 12 years now, and you've won more Grand Slams than any other person. You still seem to be hungry for titles. How do you motivate yourself?
Well, I think it's actually quite easy today. I used to struggle much more when I was younger, trying to make the breakthrough, trying to prove everybody that, I also got talent, I can play, but other guys were having success earlier and people started to question me. And early on, I just couldn't cope with it maybe as well as today, because today all the success you've had, nobody can take that away. So it gives you a sense of security, but at the same time, you want to achieve more. You need to have that fire burning, to really want to achieve big things. And that's what I have, and I think that's why I'm doing really well still.
In tennis, statistics play a big role. How important are statistics for you?
Well, I've never been the #1 statistics guy, to be quite honest. I look at them, I read them, I hear about them, but at the end, they're there. Then obviously if we're talking about huge numbers, about history books at the very, very top, and I was close to them, or I broke a few because journalists told me, or I kind of heard about them. This is when I was really like, wow, I'm being able to do something extremely special. And I think that all of a sudden really triggered some extra motivation for me to push harder, to try, more, to really stay injury-free, to be, live healthy and so forth. And I think that's actually, playing for the history books has been actually a big part of the last 5 years for me, because before that, you're just trying to get somewhere, good for your own career. And once I passed that stage and was able to play for the history books, it was an amazing feeling, and being on the same sort of level at times with Pete Sampras or Rod Laver or Björn Borg has been an amazing feeling for me.
Do statistics still urge you on in that sense that you would maybe want to win 20 Grand Slams, or?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Almost every time I step on the court today, I can maybe rewrite history in some shape or form. Not every single time, but very often. And that's why it's very intriguing for me to keep on playing for a very long time, of course.
In business, we say that competition is good for business because it keeps you innovative and it keeps you strong and going. How does that challenge of the younger generation coming up, maybe, or other big players that you play against, how does that motivate you to keep the fire burning?
Well, I think because things were very different when you come along, you are the young one, and you're only playing against either same age players or then much older in tennis terms, which is maybe 10 years older or even maximum 15 years older. And then as time goes by, you play same age, a few older and a few youngers, but they're still pretty much, from the same generation. And now I'm playing much more against younger players. And I think in the beginning I struggled to only play against younger players, just because I so much missed playing Agassi and Sampras and Carlos Moya and Henman and all those guys who I grew up coming along and been able to play them and challenge them, really. I had to find new motivation, inspiration to actually playing against younger guys. Why is it also special playing against younger players? And this is where I think competition has definitely changed my mindset. I struggled early on to get 100% motivated sometimes playing against younger guys, even though you want to show you what you can do against them. But it was just kind of difficult for me, and today I love it, trying to prove myself day after day against the younger guys.
Does that also force you in a way to rearrange your trainings and your tactic?
Not really my training regime, and I definitely think the younger generation has pushed me to work hard, but I think I was doing that anyway, regardless of who was coming along. I always questioned myself in the best of times, even when I was world #1 for many weeks and months in a row. At certain times during the year I said, what can I improve? What do I need to change? Because if you don't do anything, or you just do the same thing over and over again, you stay the same. And staying the same means going backwards, because the other guys are working hard and improving. So I always needed to find ways to improve my game as well.
In the last couple of years, the rivalry with Rafael Nadal dominated the tennis scene. What is special about playing against him? Well,
I just think we are quite different contrasts, different characters. He's a lefty, I'm a righty. He was the up and coming. I was the dominant player for a very long time before he came, and he was the big first challenger who could beat me more than once or two times in a row, and I think that just really drew big interest in our rivalry. And then of course we played some of those amazing matches in Grand Slam finals, such as Wimbledon a few times, Australian Open, French Open a few times, you know, and I think all of that obviously created this great rivalry, and it's been amazing for the sport, great for our game really, if I look into the future and how everybody talks so positively about the game right now.
You're not just rivals, you're also good friends. How do you cope with this paradox relationship?
Well, I just think it's nice to get along, you know. Maybe in the past people always felt, you know, top guys are not supposed to get along because they actually are supposed to beat each other and not like each other to play their best. But I think I was able to see it differently, that, you know, through respect and fair play, no problem, you can also dominate and play well. And I think that maybe has trickled down to, let's say, Rafa, for instance, as well, that he also takes the same approach, that he says, you know, very respectful, but very aggressive on the tennis court, but always according to the rules. I can play great tennis, and I think it's wonderful now that if the two guys at the very top have this kind of a relationship, that can also speak volumes down in the lower rankings where they are very hungry as well to break through and come forward. If they see that we get along, why shouldn't they get along as well with all of us, really?
Rafa said in an interview once, when he was asked which of your tennis strokes he would pick if he could choose, he said that he would pick your serve. What would you pick from him if you had the choice?
Well, I think Rafa has many great assets to his game. It's very hard to try to imagine that I would have some of his strengths because he's such a different and complex player to me. I try to change up my game every single shot or point I play. With him, I find it a bit different. I think he always tries to do pretty much the same, and by doing that, try to eventually get to your mind or physically break you down. And of course, he's improved, you know, much more today. He can vary his game a lot more. But if I would have to pick one huge strength he has, is his movement on clay. I think he moves extremely well. And then obviously that's not without talking about his forehand and his mental abilities and all that stuff. But he's become a wonderful player and a great person for the game.
Now, being at the top is very hard. How do you cope with the constant pressure of being amongst the top tennis players?
Well, I guess to some degree you get used to it. I thought it was somewhat hard to actually get to world number one. I mean, it is very hard, of course, but I was very close and I was very nervous getting there. And when I realized that I was close and maybe never going to become world number one, I started to stress out. So for me, the time of getting to world number one was quite stressful, to be honest. And once I got to world number one, I actually started to relax because I felt, you know what, I've achieved almost everything I ever wanted, and now I have a choice. Do I want to stay there, or was I just happy to be there once? And I decided I would like to stay there, so I worked extremely hard and tried to beat everybody and just have that mental determination and become just a different player, actually. And I really enjoyed being at the top, and the pressure, honestly, didn't really cause any problems for me. Actually, they, I think, made me play better tennis, and that's why I'm actually thankful I had this wonderful experience.
And to keep at the top, you have surrounded yourself with experts helping you with trainings, coachings, not least your friends and family who help you be motivated. Would you advise managers, for example, or people in general to surround themselves with experts and coaches to achieve what they want to achieve?
Well, I think the team's always very important, you know, in any aspect of your life, if it's in business or in your life, you know, to have a good team, good friends around you is key. To be able to pick the right ones is another quality I think, you know, leaders tend to have. For me, always harmony in the team has been very important, but then also people who can challenge me, you know, who can tell me, Roger, don't you think you should change this? We have an idea for you, a solution maybe to problems. And I'm very happy if they tell me that if they do see a problem or they think that I can still improve. It's important for me to actually hear criticism sometimes, you know, because I think that's what makes me a better player. And it questions, that means someone's questioning me who really cares about me. And I think that's really important in the business world as well. And you know, I think I've done actually quite well over the years, considering always having a team around me for the last 12 years.
You've become a father recently. How have your children changed your motivation towards your life and your career?
Well, I mean, my children just is an incredible inspiration for me, you know, to be able to leave the courts, come back and see them grow up day after day. It's been it's been wonderful. I'm also been very fortunate that they've actually been able to travel with me so much, that I have a wife that's so supportive of everything that I do, that she doesn't say, you know what, you go to the tournaments, it's too hard and difficult for me to travel with the kids and everything. I have a wonderful family and they're so into it, you know, to be with me. And I think it's helped my game, to be honest, even though there's always a lot of talk, you know, once you become a father, once you get older, you don't have as much success. But honestly, I think I played some of my best tennis when Mirka was pregnant and right after. And it was for me a time when it was just happiness all around, and still today is the same, and it gives me great balance in my life.
Many people are now starting to speculate about when you would retire from the center courts, but you've once said in an interview that you actually want your children to see you playing. Does that mean that we will have the pleasure to see you playing for at least the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, there's never a set target, you know, except if it's a short term. And I don't plan in the short term, I always plan in the long term, which is 1.5 years ahead of time. And that means I am looking right now at sort of the 2012 Olympics in London and beyond that, and that's why I see myself playing still for many more years. I mean, obviously many things come into play, such how's your health, how's your life doing, how's your success level. But honestly, I feel right now I'm still playing some of my best tennis of my life. I know I can still dominate, I know I can still win the biggest tournaments, I can still beat the best players, and I'm playing really well at the moment. So it doesn't really even cross my mind. Unfortunately, I'm being asked quite a bit recently, just because of all of my success I've had, and you know, other guys always pushing through. That always creates stories within the game. But at the end of the day, important is how I feel. How successful do I feel I can still be? And honestly, I'm very confident, and that's why I'm still going to play for quite some time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.